Okay, today I'm going to meander on about why I think sleep is a part of nature. So basically, let me just go straight to it. Let's see. Our brains are made of particular materials and involve certain chemical reactions because of the materials the brain is made of and the arrangement that they're in, which is basically saying the same thing. If you think of the brain as a kind of flame, if you use a flame as an analogy for the brain, then you can imagine how one's brain is an active environment with moments of chemical reactions and also moments where there are no chemical reactions. And that foundation is due to the arrangement of materials and the type of materials in the brain. That is also the foundation of a flame. The kind of chemical reaction that's taking place. And due to that chemical foundation of a flame, the appearance and the activity of a flame is guaranteed and inevitable, and there's no other way it can happen. Unless you, of course, change the materials involved. You change the fuel, you change the kind of reaction, but the foundation itself is the chemical reaction. And due to that particular chemical reaction, you have fluctuations of moments where there is a chemical reaction happening and moments where there are not any chemical reactions happening in that particular place and time. Fluctuations. I would use the term coherence and decoherence. There are moments of coherence in the brain and moments of decoherence in the brain. And if you plot that out over time, you get waves. For example, in an EEG, this is one way to measure the coherence in the brain. You get a lot of rapid changes, moments of coherence and decoherence. And the reason you have that is because of the foundation, the material foundation, which is the types of materials in the brain, their arrangement, and the kinds of chemical reactions taking place. That is the foundation of the brain. And everything that occurs as the result of the brain is due to that foundation. Now, a lot of people might think, well, this sounds like the physicalist talking. Well, I am a materialist because I'm a monist, but I'm not a physicalist. Because I acknowledge the existence of experiences. I think it is very strange to say that experiences don't exist because they're made of something else. I think that they do exist in objective reality. It would be strange to say something like, well, books don't exist because they're made up of pages or paper. But then, you know, paper doesn't exist because it's made up of you know, smaller particles and cells. That's ludicrous. I could see that I can kind of understand that way of thinking. But ontologically speaking, it is hogwash. So anyway, as a monist, I recognize that the foundation of the brain is or the thoughts are the chemical makeup of the brain. Now, when sleep is a mystery. It continues to be a mystery to science. And really, the questions that people ask themselves are, how did sleep come about due to evolution? What is the purpose in the context of evolution? What's the purpose of sleep? I'm not convinced that that is the correct question to ask. I see that sleep and everything else is a result of really just the arrangement of particles that make up the brain. These forces, these chemical reactions exist objectively. This is what happens in nature. Forces are in nature and they exist objectively. And one of their characteristics, not characteristics really, but the way they're made up as fields, is that they're self-similar and hierarchical. And that's why you have a lot of patterns that recur in nature on various scales. The same patterns you see as very small and very large. Sleep is simply the decoherence, the portion of the cycle of the brain which is decoherence. It is a moment of time in the cycle. And also death. Death is also part of that cycle. And that's it. That's it. It is an inevitable part of the brain. How the brain exists in its chemical makeup. Sleep and death are inevitable and are not due to evolution. Now, earlier, a few months ago, I was thinking that, well, yes, it might seem reasonable to state that physical forces within the brain. And there should be moments of decoherence to allow the brain to heal. Because I view consciousness as a physical force, just like magnetism, that creates an actual attraction between neurons. I don't have any. I can't recall any evidence for that. It was just, see, I said I was going to meander. Basically, everything I'm talking about these days is philosophical. I'm brainstorming. I'm taking monism to its logical conclusion. I'm trying to creatively come up with new ideas based upon the foundation of monism. And so I'm making a lot of claims based upon that foundation of monism, trying to stay as true as I can to monism. Now, a lot of the claims that I make would probably be false if it turns out that monism is false. And that's why I open myself up to criticism, because I want other smart people to help me find criticisms for monism and everything else. So, I am talking about sleep, but I'm also talking about death, which is a larger portion of the cycle. Inevitable. Just like it is inevitable for a flame to go out, and it is inevitable for a flame to reduce in size when it's not getting enough fuel. Obviously, it's not the perfect analogy because you can pretty much keep a flame going if you keep giving it fuel. However, a brain doesn't just keep going if you just keep eating food. Sleep is, as far as I can tell, kind of a necessary thing. Initially, a person might think, well, you know, if I don't sleep, then I can like live forever or something, or if I eat a lot of food, then I don't have to sleep and I can live. No. You know, if you look into people's past people who've lived, there are certain people who have slept very little throughout their lives and yet do not live longer than anyone else. I don't see it as more of on an individual basis. I see it more as a collective kind of phenomenon. But even then, I don't think that you could hypothetically prevent everyone from sleeping and therefore create immortality in everyone. I don't think it works like that. I think it is based upon the foundation of the just the physical material makeup of the brain. And I'll make videos about this in the future, but different animals have different densities of neurons, different brain mass, and size. Different animals sleep for different lengths. Different animals live for different lengths of time. And I'm going to look into that and see if there are any interesting correlations between those variables. Yeah, so in my previous video, I was talking about how immortality might be possible if you take a normal brain like yours or mine, which is in a constant change of coherence and decoherence. You made a version of that brain that was in a permanent state of coherence. Just like you have a permanent magnet versus an electromagnet. The way that we make magnets is we take the right materials, the best materials for the job. Like you could say neodymium is a good material to make a permanent magnet. So let's say you get a rod of neodymium and you stick it in a solenoid, which is copper wire wound up in kind of a tube, a bunch of turns. And then direct current is applied to the solenoid. And also, you choose the material copper and you arrange it in a particular way. This is the key, really, just choosing the correct materials and arranging them in the particular way. And copper is chosen because it is it allows for better electrical coherence. And that's basically what electricity is. And there is permanent electrical coherence, but that's not something that can be used to power things, in the like free energy. That's not how it would work. Because the thing that you want to power, it'll be more like a flame. You'll be using fuel and putting out work. But if you don't use any fuel, you can make it so that, or if you don't need to put out any work, then your coherence can be permanent. That's basically what my argument is. So that you can create a chunk of something. It maybe looks like some kind of a weird looking rock that is immortal, permanently coherent in terms of consciousness. And also, if you got close to it, then it might influence your brain. So in that aspect, mind control, real mind control, might be possible. People think that the government has these like mind control devices that use like radios or whatever sound. Like, no. That's not how it works. No, a real mind control device would be something like that. You get a particular material, and also the way that you'd make it is you'd need to also invent the tool to make something like that, and it would be, I think, similar to a solenoid, but it wouldn't be the same arrangement of materials. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be coil, a coil of copper wire. I don't think it would be copper wire necessarily. I have no idea. That's that's a distant. Yeah. Well, anyway, I think I've rambled enough. Maybe I might do a video talking about the same exact thing, but titling it "Mind Control is Possible" or something. to get other people into this mindset, you basically have to like repeat the same thing over and over and over again, so that people, because it takes a while of mulling this over, and really that's what I'm doing. I'm mulling it over in my head, and I'm not really thinking of anything new. I'm just using old ways of thinking and also kind of applying that to our modern understanding of technology. I'm just putting the two together. And the reason academia is at kind of a slowdown is because they've gone from the correct way of looking at things, which is monism, to an incorrect way of looking at things, physicalism. And really, all it would take to reach the next level of technology is to revisit monism. And that's really all I'm doing, is I'm trying to jumpstart technology. Thanks for watching.